Gracias. Me llamo Clayton, soy veterinario de Cartago en los Estados Unidos. Puedo hablar poquito español, pero malo. Y solo puedo hablar porque trabajo en granjas. Si solo concerto palabras. Palabras es mi solo español. No es appropriate para aquí. Fortunately, we have Lulu, and Lulu, I will appreciate if you help with the translation for the rest of it, because that is all the Spanish that I can possibly come up with. I'm going to talk about a case study of PRRS outbreak on Breeder Farm, Site 1 in United States. And it is a real case study with a real bad PRRS outbreak. I see it as my job to fix the situation. It is a bad situation, but the situation has a range of outcomes, right? The range of outcomes may all be not great, but we still want to target the best end of the range. That's all we can do. So I will share with you how I apply the 5-step process to try and improve the situation, okay? It may be painful, but our job is to try to stabilize the farm and get it back in production as fast as possible. This Site 1 looks like many, many different Site 1s all over North America. This is a farm named Deerview that Carthage manages in the United States. This farm is about 20 years old, and the farm has paid the price of tuition for air filtration. This farm was not built with air filters, but it had air filters added in about 2010. 2010 was the infancy of understanding air filtration, but we knew the farm was in a very pig-dense area. The owners were open to trying to use new technology, and where I say we've paid the tuition, this farm has paid the tuition of air filtration, we have tried a lot of different things, and we've made a lot of mistakes. We tried using MERV 14 filters. Not a great decision with the new viruses we have that produce so much virus. We need better quality filters for. We tried seasonally filtering the farm. Filter the farm for like 7 months out of the year. Now the PRRS strains, they cause outbreaks all year around. So the punchline is the farm has not been in filtration for the past 3 years or so. There is a big plan to do a large remodel of the farm, but this story starts before that plan is implemented. This story starts when the farm is not in filtration. The farm is PRRS Stage 2 MLV. PRRS Stage 2 MLV. So vaccinated, but I want to make sure that we are all on the same page with the terminology, what that means. So the first quiz question that I have is, what correctly describes PRRS Stage 2 MLV? Is PRRS Stage 2 MLV that we are MLV vaccinated and wild type stable? Or is Stage 2 MLV vaccinated and wild type negative? Or we just know that Stage 2 MLV is we're vaccinated, but it is unknown the wild type status. So I'll give you a second to do the QR code. I'll let you do some voting. It looks like we've got 7 gunners in the crowd that have already gotten their answers in. You guys are awesome. I really appreciated sitting behind all of you in vet school. All right, what is Stage 2 MLV? Very important that we have consistent terminology. Terms like PRRS negative, PRRS stable, they can mean different things to different people. And so very important that we have consistent terminology. Sven, I think we can go look at the results now. We got almost 40 people in there. We have half of the crowd that says it is PRRS wild type stable, and then it kind of split pretty equally in the other 2 options. The correct answer is PRRS Stage 2 MLV means the farm is vaccinated with MLV. So we are creating antibodies with MLV, but it is wild type negative. There is no wild type virus on this farm at the start of the story, okay? It's vaccinated, we have antibodies, we use vaccine, but there's no wild type present. And a cheat code, if you will, PRRS Stage 2 is always wild type negative. If you say stage 2, it is always wild type negative. 2, 3, 4, those stages, always wild type negative. All right, so that's the status of this farm. Vaccinated, but wild type negative. Our story starts in week 50 of 2025. So it is like right before Christmas, which is a bad time to be a pig farm, right? You can see the numbers here, and I always hate going through our production numbers after somebody from Denmark has gone through their production numbers. But we'll go through them anyway. It's a 6,000 head farm that breeds about 300 animals every single week. 6 abortions in that week. 6 abortions, very normal number. For a 6,000 head farm, very, very normal number. You can see the farrowing numbers here. The farm is an old farm, but it was relatively healthy, and they were weaning 12 and a half pigs per litter. So decent, not great by US standards, but have throughput of over 30 PSY, which is acceptable in the US industry. If you can do 30 PSY, people would want more, but generally you're not on the naughty list. You're not on the bad farm list at that point. 15 dead sows, a little higher than target, but pretty normal metrics. And you know, the dead sows are dying from normal dead sow reasons. We go to week 51, we see a spike in abortions. And you all know where the story is going from here. Almost every PRRS outbreak on a site 1 starts this way, where you look at our daily abortions and all of a sudden we have 1, 2, 7, 9. That's when you go take blood from the farm. That's when we go bleed the aborted sows and take the diagnostics. I send those samples to Marcelo. Marcelo sends me a diagnostic report which confirms what we are concerned about, which is we have PRRS. We are no longer stage 2. We're now stage 1. We are on the front end of an outbreak. And we can get the sequence very fast in the United States now. So I have the sequence back very, very quickly, and the sequence is not good news. The sequence is a very common strain, the most common strain in the United States right now by far. And I know this like alphabet and number soup may not mean very much to you, but the exact strain is a lineage 1C532. This is bad news. This is the current bad boy virus in the United States. And they're nice enough to give me some comparison to the available vaccines here when I get the sequence. So all of this is packaged up from Iowa State. I get the cut pattern, which I don't really use. I get the lineage, which I do use. And it gives me some information to go to the farm owners and say, we have a bad situation. We have an outbreak. This is probably going to be a challenge. So I talked about the lineage system. This is a PRRS lineage 1 virus, which is the most common lineage all over North America. So let's do another quiz question where we talk about lineages. Which of these statements is true as it relates to PRRS lineages? Is it true that the lineage is determined with whole genome sequencing? Do we use the whole genome, or do we just use like a little portion of it, like 5% of it, to determine the lineage? Which one is that true or not? Is the PRRS lineage 1, will I always have less than 10% variation in my sequences within lineage 1? So do I know, because this is lineage 1, that it's going to be within 10% homology of all the other lineage 1 viruses? And then will my PRRS, will the viruses have a better cross protection within lineage? If I've been using a lineage 1 vaccine, can I expect better results because this is a lineage 1 outbreak? What do you think? And then the last one, none of the above. If you don't think any of these things are true, you can certainly pick none of the above. What is true about PRRS lineages? All right, Sven, let's see what they're thinking. All right, good job. None of the above. None of that stuff is true. Whole genome sequencing has nothing to do with the lineage. We measure OR5, which is like 4 or 5% of the whole genome. That's what determines your sequence information or your lineage. And there's huge variation within lineage 1. You can have lineage 1 viruses that are 14% different from each other. Very, very common. And there's really no evidence that we have cross protection within lineage that's superior to a cross lineage. So very good job out in the audience. All right, we do a biosecurity investigation, try to figure out the source of the virus for the outbreak. In this case, it is not a big mystery. This farm I mentioned is in a pretty pig-dense area, and here is our Deerview farm down here at the bottom of this map. You can see the little white rectangles there. Right up here is a neighboring farm. That farm is about 4.5 kilometers away, and unfortunately, the prevailing winds in this area, they are going to bring aerosol from this farm to this farm very easily. This farm made a big investment in cameras, so we can review the camera footage, we can watch every supply entry, we can watch every mortality removal, we can watch the loadout of every single pig that has gone on over the days where we think the virus came in. We don't really find anything exciting in the camera review, and the temperature, the climatic conditions were perfect to move virus from that farm to our farm Deerview. So not really a mystery. We know exactly where the virus came from, unfortunately. Because we were unfiltered, we had the virus come in via aerosol. This is a bad outbreak. I didn't make these numbers up. These are real numbers. In 28 days, over 1,000 sows aborted. In 28 days, 1,000 abortions, okay? Another 350 sows died in 28 days. That's a lot of dead sows to drag out of the farm. And when I say drag out of the farm, I mean drag out of the farm. The farm has one of those carts, the Hercules cart, if you've seen it, where they can electronically remove. That's an electric cart that runs on a battery. You can take 2 sows out, and then the battery is dead, right? So when you average 10 a day for 4 weeks, everybody is dragging dead sows out all day. So it's a bad situation. Think of the hole in inventory that we have. Over 5% of our gestating sows, they're gone. And they're not gone equally from every single week. We have big holes in some parts of our breeding group. We have decent numbers in some other parts of our breeding group. The outbreak has a kind of staggered impact on the farm. So the abortions are almost always the first thing we see rise and then fall. The farrowing house, oftentimes we don't see the piglets have a problem immediately. So the abortions, they started in week 51. The farrowing house was pretty normal in week 51. And I know there's a lot of metrics up here. We've got some nice data analysis tools at Carthage. I'll just hone in on a couple of important metrics. You can see the live-born, still at target. That green number, it means we are still at target for the live-born, okay? Our born alive, 3,200 pigs for the week. That's generally where we need to be on this farm. Our pre-wean mortality, 490 pigs for the week. We weaned 12.5 pigs per litter farrowed that week. So right at where the farm has been in that week. Week 52, we start to see the impact. You can see the live-born number has gone down. We're not at target anymore. Stillborns are going up. Pre-wean mortality, up a couple hundred pigs. We're still having a lot of pigs born alive. We had 4,000 pigs born alive. So it's not a disaster in the farrowing house yet, but it's getting there. Week 1, we turn the calendar to a new year. Our stillborns are now 3 times target. Our live-born is down quite a bit. And look where our pre-wean mortality has gone. Triple the pre-wean mortality from what we had before the outbreak. We get to week 3, and the farrowing house is a disaster. Farrowing house reports aren't very complicated. Look how many sows farrowed. 93 for the week. We breed 320 every week. We farrowed 93 of them, okay? Because the rest of them died or aborted. The total pigs born alive, 735 for the week. Total pigs died, 1,087. That's not a good ratio. That means we're not going to wean some pigs for a while. Now, it doesn't stay like that forever, right? We go to week 5. By week 5, we're seeing the live-born starting to come up. We still don't have the farrows. There's nothing I can do with the sows that aborted and died, right? I can't make them pregnant again right away, but I'm starting to have some more pigs, and I'm shifting the battle. I'm starting to have more pigs born alive than I'm having to die, so now I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start having pigs again. And it should just continue to get better from here. It should improve, right? Not overnight, but if we don't see a steady improvement in the born alive numbers, if we don't see a steady improvement in the quality of pigs, that's a signal we need to investigate. That's a signal we need to dig in and say, is there another co-infection that's causing us a problem? Is there something that we can do better to improve this situation? One of the metrics with these outbreaks that we tend to look at is the time to baseline. And the time to baseline is how many weeks until we get back to the right number of weaned pigs. Just the right number. It doesn't mean the pigs are PRRS negative, just to the right number of weaned pigs. And a quiz question for you here is, what is a reasonable number, or I should say, what's a number that's almost impossible to get it done before? So how many weeks after the outbreak is it really, really difficult to get back to the baseline? 10 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks, 25 weeks. Think about the PRRS outbreak, right? Which groups of our bred sows does the PRRS outbreak impact? And how many weeks worth of inventory do we have in the sow farm that's going to be impacted? All right, we got 32. You guys are fast. All right, Sven. I bet they got this one right. Good job. 20 weeks. There are 20 weeks of breeding animals on the farm. There's 3 in lactation, and you get 16 and a half in gestation. All of them are sick at the same time. They're all sick at the same time. Their losses will show up in different categories. The ones that are due to farrow, they're going to abort or die. The ones that were just bred, they're going to have bad total born, bad conception rate. Okay? The ones that are in lactation, they're going to be sick and they're going to have a delayed wean to service interval. But really, you got to be honest with a farm when this happens. For the next 20 weeks, we're not going to wean the right number of pigs. That's the reality. We're going to try to maximize the number of pigs that we can get, but the sows we're breeding today, their performance is not going to be that great, and that's a reality. All right, Sven, we'll jump back in the slides. So, 5-step process. There is no one perfect plan for every Site 1 going through this issue, but there is a perfect way to make the plan. The planning process has to be consistent. The 5 steps, this is the good way to make decisions, whether we're talking about PRRS or people management, you name it. What is the goal? Okay? So let's think about this. What is our first goal? The farm's got a big problem. What's the first thing we need to do? How are we going to fight the PRRS? Antibodies, right? And it's going to take a while for those antibodies to build. We all saw that Osorio chart before that looks at the viremia and the time to serum neutralizing antibodies. It's slow. It's like planting a tree. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today. So what are we going to do to make antibodies? We are going to vaccinate the farm. When are we going to do it? Today. A lot of those animals are not going to respond great to the vaccination. They're sick today. That's why we're going to come back and do it again in 30 days. Because those sows in 30 days, if they weren't healthy on the first day of the vaccination, they're either out of the farm, they were one of the mortalities, or they have recovered. They're not viremic anymore, they're eating, they're drinking. They're 30 days later, they are in a good position to receive the vaccination and build good immunity to the vaccination. So that's what we're going to do. You know, a lot of times I would talk to the producer about maybe we should depopulate this farm. We're not going to wean a lot of pigs. The pigs we do wean are going to be very sick. Maybe we should depopulate the farm. But remember, the neighboring farm, it still has PRRS. So if I depop the farm, bring in a bunch of nice healthy gilts, I'll start breeding them. But if I don't have the filtration in place, it's a ticking time bomb for this to just happen again. So depop, repop in this specific situation, not really a good plan. That's a constraint that I can't do anything about in the short term. I just have to be smart about my decision making. Closing the herd, eliminating the wild type is a good idea. Depop, repop is pretty risky in this situation. So we're going to do the vaccination immediately, and I really want to monitor abortions. This should be a big feedback loop. We take an action, we look for a response. If we don't get the response we want, we revisit the action. I'm going to vaccinate the sow farm, and I'm going to look first at the abortions. Do I see the abortions coming back down? If you're 3 weeks into the outbreak and you aren't seeing the abortions come back down, you've got to start to think, do I have the diagnosis right? Is there something else going on? Because did I not give the vaccine that I was supposed to? I've got to start thinking outside the box on what's going on, because the pigs don't lie. And the pigs should have a big spike in abortions, but the abortions are caused by fever, and that should subside. That should come down with time. And you're maybe asking yourself too, well, if we're going to homogenize the herd, what about other options? And we can talk about LVI. LVI has its place sometimes. We can talk about the pros and cons of LVI and MLV as a jukebox question later. But remember, Larry's a great presenter, and we should make him present at least 3 times in the next jukebox. So you don't have to vote for me. A vote for Larry would be much, much better. I should say, I don't care if you vote for Larry, just don't vote for me. All right, 5-step concept number 2, maximize throughput. What is the goal of the Site 1? What is the product of the Site 1? Not a trick question. Wean pigs. The Site 1 exists to make a quality wean pig. I have a range of wean pigs that I can produce, right? I'm not going to produce as many as I want for the next 20 weeks, but my goal is to produce as many as I possibly can. The PRRS is in the past. I can't control what happened in week 51. I'm just going to try to optimize how many pigs we get through this farm, all right? The sows are really, really sick. We're going to have horrible conception rates for the next several weeks. There's not a lot I can do about that in the immediate moment. But I don't really care about the conception rate. I shouldn't say that. That sounds horrible. What do I care about? I care about the number that farrow. And so if I'm going to have crappy conception rate, if I'm going to have bad conception rate, and I know it, how do I overcome that? I breed more. I breed more. If I know conception rate's going to go down by 30%, I have to breed 30% more to get the right number to farrow. And fortunately, I have a bunch of opportunity sows. I have 1,000 sows that aborted, 1,000 of them. So I have a huge pool of open animals, and they're not going to be in heat tomorrow. But as soon as they come into heat, I should breed them. I should breed them. I should breed all of them. Breed, breed, breed. You breed your way through a PRRS outbreak, okay? You can see what happened to the conception rate on this farm. Tanks, right? It's very predictable. It's going to happen. But look at the green line, which is the number of sows and gilts that we bred. The normal target is around 300. We're breeding over 400 a week because we've got them there to breed. All right? Breed, breed, breed when you have this outbreak. Maybe you'll get lucky and the conception rate isn't a problem. We'll handle that when we have that situation, but probably the conception rate's going to be bad. So if I breed 400 and 300 of them are preg check positive, that's as good as I can do. That's as good as I can do at that point. All right, also on maximizing throughput, I have 5% of my breeding inventory that's just gone. And even worse, it's not 5% from every group. It's 15% from every group that is heavy bred and due to farrow, and then it's getting slowly less and less throughout. I need gilts. The only way I can fill those breeding groups in the short term is gilts. And I need an average of 5% more gilts in the future, but I don't need 5% more gilts every week. I need 15% more gilts right here. I need 10% more gilts right here. And I have to be strategic about the gilts that I bring in, okay? I've got so much space in my GDU. And so I have to live with the constraints of how much space is there, but I need to be smart about, do I have the right gilts at the right age so they come into heat when I have the least number of sows to breed, when I'm most vulnerable for hitting my breed target. So think strategically about your gilt introductions. Very quickly figure out where do you need extra gilts and make your gilt purchase, not the normal one, make it precise for where you have missing inventory in your gestation. When those animals farrow and then wean, that hole will just continue to come through the farm if we don't fill it in. So if we don't put gilts in the farm to be ready to breed, when those short breeding groups are weaned, we're going to miss target over and over again. All right, The Site 1's job is to make wean pigs, and good quality wean pigs. They're going to be PRRS positive for a little while. Not much I can do about that. But I can actually use one of my constraints as an advantage right now. I got tons of space in farrowing. I have 1,100 farrowing crates in this farm, and I'm only farrowing 90 or 100 every week right now. I have many, many empty crates. I can expand the wean age. The pigs are growing more slowly in the lactation, but I can keep the wean weight consistent. I need more days, I need more wean age to do it, but I can accomplish that goal. I can deliver the pig at weaning that is the same size as the post-weaning, the Site 2 expects to receive. And I should do so. I should take advantage of the opportunity to increase my wean age so that I have good wean age, good wean weight, and I'm giving the Site 2 as good a pig as I can to be successful with. So you can see on this farm, the yellow line is the average wean weight, and the blue is the weaning age in days. We elevate the weaning age, and we have a little bit of a dip in weight, but overall, throughout the outbreak, we really don't have a huge sacrifice in wean weight. We have to keep the pigs longer, but I have the space in farrowing to do it. There's no reason why I have to be aggressive in weaning those pigs. If my wean age is 21 days, I can take it to 25, 26, 28, whatever it takes to get the best quality pig to the Site 2. Now, I need to recognize that if I wean pigs that are 28, 30 days old, I may have a PRRS problem with those pigs. So I don't want to change the age of vaccination. If I'm going to use MLV vaccine, I should not delay the vaccine till weaning just because that's typically when I give it. If I've got a wean pig that's 30 days old, I probably want to keep my MLV vaccination to my piglets. If I'm going to do that, I want to keep it at 21 days of age because I want to try and get ahead of that wild type infection, all right? I may not be able to get ahead of it for every pig, but I want to get ahead of it for as many pigs as possible. So in this situation, don't change the age of vaccination. Change the age of weaning, but you can pick the pigs up, vaccinate them, put them right back down on the sow. That's very, very doable, and we can and should take advantage of it. All right, a couple of questions here on vaccine decisions. So this is a question about percentage homology needed to have cross protection. Marcelo talked a lot about that with PCV2. You know, he showed us that there's good cross protection within the serotypes of PCV2. So for PRRS, different pathogen, different question. But what percent homology on the OR5 do we need to have good cross protection? Do we need 80% homology, 85% homology, 90% homology? Does homology matter? What do you think? All right, I'm going to get out of the way of the QR code here. All right, 80%, 85, 90. Homology doesn't matter with PRRS cross protection. What do you think? All right, Sven, let's do it. Excellent, excellent. It's a trick question. There's a lot of research done in this area. We've been able to do sequencing for a long, long time. It's always been a question. Should I choose the MLV strain that most closely matches my wild type strain? It's a very, very fair question, and it makes sense biologically, but research has shown time and time again, we can't predict PRRS cross protection with just the OR5 sequence alone. All right, we'll jump back in the slides here, Sven. And then last question on our vaccine options, lineage 1. I have a lineage 1 wild type in my farm. Lineage 1 is the most common wild type I deal with all over North America and even Asia too. We're not the only ones that deal with these bad strains. So if I get a lineage 1 MLV vaccine, is that going to be better for my protection? Yes or no? Very basic question. Yes or no? Will a lineage 1 vaccine give me better protection against this strain because it's a lineage 1 strain? All right, Sven's got our Slido set up. Only about half of the people are asleep right now. Good job. Good job. So there's not going to be an improved protection simply because it is lineage 1. And Sven, if we can look back at the slides, one of the things I want to highlight to you in my diagnostic report is this right here. I know it is in vogue for people that have a lineage 1 vaccine to say, well, you should use our vaccine because we're lineage 1. We are closer homology to your wild type strains. It makes sense. Like, I want to believe it, very much so. But this is my sequence, and this is the percent homology to the vaccines that are available in the US. Okay? So Engelvac MLV is lineage 5. Fostera, lineage 7, right, Reed? Fostera, lineage 7, 85.6% similar. Engelvac MLV, 85% similar. Look at my lineage 1 option. 87%. It's a percent better, right? It's a little bit closer. But no one would look at any of these options and say they're homologous. They're all heterologous, okay? So if there's a vaccine company that has a vaccine against this specific strain, against this specific variant, well, that's great. I would love to look at that. But don't just come in and say, well, I'm lineage 1, you got a lineage 1 strain, use my vaccine. That's unfortunately not a good way to make our vaccine decisions. With that, I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, and I will turn it over to Dr. Oliver.